Very good afternoon to one and all. Welcome to the fifth study circle meeting of the GSTPAM. It's a very interesting topic. The recent circulars and notifications which are issued by the government, a few of them were kind of our push, and I'm sure our president will talk about it. So I welcome everyone online and offline to this fifth study circle meeting. I request our president, Sunil Bhai, to say a few words before starting the session. आपको माइक से करना है तो कर सकते.
Good afternoon to everyone, and online also the delegates who are attending online. I welcome them all. See, today's study circle is the fifth study circle meeting in line with we have CBIC has issued certain notifications and circulars with regard to certain amendments. That was one of them is that state had issued a 2A circular with regard to the mismatch of the input credit vis-a-vis 2A, 2B and 3B. So during the first introduction meeting with the CGST Principal Chief Commissioner of CGST, we had been to Dr. Vasudevan in Churchgate. When we met them, we had requested them, sir, this state has given a circular with regard to mismatch, and 2A internal circular was there issued by the commissioner, and we had given them the forwarded and a copy of that circular also to him, and requested him that we should see central CGST also should come up with such circular which can help the trade community as well as consultants in much of need of that. It was a need of that hour, because we were getting match message notices and big demands were being raised by the departments, and effect of that we have got the circular from the circular number 183 by the CBIC, and I thank all the office bearers who were with me for representing our GSTPM, and we are through with that. But only the variation is that CGST has issued, CBIC has issued 5 lakh limit, and state has a 2.5, and we have a understanding that state will match with that CBIC circular hopefully. And obviously they have to do it, because always CBIC is the higher authority than the state authority, that has to come with that. Anyway, today's subject is very important, and we have Raj Khona with us for enlightening us. I thank you all for attending this study circle meeting, and few announcements will be there that will be done by our secretary after the study circle meeting. Thank you very much. Welcome to you all again, and happy learning.
Thank you, President, sir. Now, without further ado, I would like our Joint Secretary Vinod Bhai to introduce our speaker, so we can proceed with the session. Vinod Bhai, yeah.
Thank you, Vinod Bhai. Today's speaker is Mr. Raj Khona. His qualification BCom CA LLB. His academic qualifications, member of the Institute of Chartered Account of India since 2016. He holds a bachelor degree in commerce from R.A. Poddar College of Commerce and Economics. He also holds a bachelor degree in law from New Law College. He has a professional experience, rich experience in indirect tax, especially GST, VAT, CST, Central Excise, Service Tax, Customs, and Foreign Trade Policy. He is an associate director of KKC and Associate LLP, formerly known as Kimji Kunvirji and Company LLP, and heads the firm's indirect tax GST practice. KKC is a leading auditing firm in India with long-standing reputation of more than 8 decades in the market. Before joining KKC, he worked with one of the leading law firm in India's Lakshmi Kumaran and Sridharan attorneys as a member of the firm GST advisory practice for more than 3 years. He advises the clients from diverse sectors on complex GST issues and is actively involved in conducting GST audit, tax compliance review, due diligence assignment, tax optimization, restructuring projects, etc. He also handles litigation assignment and appears before the tax authorities up to tribunal. He also drafted a representation to the GST Council and government on behalf of leading industry association. He is an avid orator, trainer, and regular speaker on GST-related topics across India at study circles, seminar, workshop, conference organized by various professional fora like Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Institute of Company Secretary of India, Institute of Cost Accountant of India, Chamber of Tax Consultants, Bombay Chartered Accountants Society, and our association. He is preferred faculty on GST for seminar and workshop organized by several industry. He has been invited to speak at 125 plus lectures, seminar, webinar, workshop, and talks across India. With this, I have welcomed Sri Raj Khona. Please welcome with loud applauses. I request our President, Sri Krishnani Sahib, to offer a memento to Mr. Raj Khona. Thank you.
Now with this, I would like to invite Raj, our learned speaker, for taking the session. Over to you. Briefly start that.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the association president, the Law and Representation Committee convener Umang, all the office bearers for inviting me for this study circle meeting. Speaking at GSTPAM has always been an honor, and first of all, it always gives an opportunity to learn new things. Because in a routine practice, when we are dealing with so many issues, we tend to just means not study regularly because of the compliance due dates, etc. And conducting study circles like this gives us an opportunity to read all the provisions, the notification circulars. And this also gave me an opportunity to go through it in better detail when I was preparing for this study circle meeting. The topic is recent circulars and notifications. GST, you will have a monthly budget. Basically, every month we will have notification circulars and so many orders or so many advance rulings coming, judgments coming up day in and day out. And it is very difficult to keep track. So even this study circle, when we were discussing with Uman that what are the notifications and circulars to be considered. So he said that we have only time of 1.5 hours. So you take the circulars and notifications which have come the latest. So on the 26th and 27th, the circulars and notifications which have come, we are only taking up those in this study circle. First, the agenda is basically to discuss both the circulars and notifications. So first I'll be taking us all through the circulars. And since it is a study circle, I would invite participation from the audience also. So whoever has any queries or want to add anything are welcome. With regard to the circulars, yes. So bandi kar do. Upar le. So the first circular is the very important circular, as our president mentioned in these opening remarks, is the circular on the ITC mismatch cases. It is a welcome circular. Maharashtra state government was the only state government which had issued a internal circular, circular number 2A, wherein they had covered cases where there is a mismatch of ITC or differences in GSTR 1-3B. And the GSTPAM was pioneer in representing to the central government with regard to the similar circular being issued by the CBIC. And CBIC has aptly given a circular on these ITC mismatch cases, and it is a welcome circular. So whatever the differences were there in GSTR 2A and 3B in the financial year 17-18 and 18-19, for that they have issued the circular. In the circular, the CBIC has specifically stated that the facility of 2A was not available on the portal in the initial stages, and therefore the need for such a circular is required. Also, they have mentioned that the condition for availment of credit, that the amount should appear in 2A, was introduced from 2019 onwards. The rule number 36.4 that was introduced. And before that, though there was a condition for claiming the credit, the facility of 2A was only a viewing facility. There was no specific restriction under the rules to restrict the credit. Now, this circular covers only 5 cases. Which are those 5 cases? 4 cases, sorry. If the supplier has filed GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B has failed to file GSTR 1 and not filed GSTR 3B. So GSTR 1 has not been filed, but 3B has been filed. He has filed GSTR 1 and 3B, but has failed to report a particular supply in GSTR 1. So one particular invoice is not reported, or some particular invoices are not reported, but both the returns have been filed. He has filed the GSTR 1 and he has mentioned the invoice as a B2C, under the B2C category and not under the B2B category. But the physical invoice which he has issued is proper in terms of Rule 46. And the last is that he has filed both GSTR 1 and 3B, but reported the transaction under a wrong GSTN. So the customer's GSTN is basically, there is a mistake in that. So now in these cases, they have prescribed a procedure to be followed to prove that basically the tax has been actually paid. So what is basically the procedure here is that the proper officer has to seek all the details first from the registered recipient, that whatever the invoices which are not appearing in 2A, but he has claimed in 3B. So the details of those invoices have to be provided. Then the officer has to check whether all the conditions which are mentioned in section 16 have been fulfilled. Namely, he has a tax invoice, he has received the goods or services, then he has filed the returns, he has made the payment within 180 days. All those conditions in section 16 has to be fulfilled. For the condition that the tax has been actually paid or not, for proving that there is a specific procedure prescribed. It is saying that if the difference of ITC claimed in 3B and available in 2A in respect of a supplier for a particular financial year, per supplier for a particular financial year, is more than 5 lakhs. So the difference of CGST plus SGST is more than, or IGST is more than 5 lakhs, then you have to obtain a certificate from a chartered accountant or a company secretary with a UDIN. Okay, so UDIN has to be generated for that, and CA or company secretary or cost accountant can issue that certificate. So supplier will have to obtain a certificate from the chartered accountant or cost accountant and furnish it to the recipient. And that certificate should contain a UDIN and should specifically mention that what is the invoice name, number, date, whatever the specifications of the invoice, and also you should mention that tax has been actually paid to the government. So that certificate has to be obtained. And if the difference is up to 5 lakhs, so if the difference is up to 5 lakhs, then self-certification, the supplier himself can issue a certificate that he has actually paid the tax to the government. So that is a procedure to prescribe for proving that tax has been actually paid to the government. So that is specified in this circular. Then he also has to see whether reversal provisions are properly fulfilled or not. And he has to verify whether the tax, for that he has to obtain the certificate. Now here for one of the 4 conditions which I had mentioned, 4 cases, the last case where it was the GST number, wrong GST number was mentioned. For that, there is one additional step which the proper officer has to do. It says that the proper officer of the actual recipient has to intimate to the officer of the person whose GST number was mentioned, wrongly mentioned. So that officer has to intimate that such person has come up with a circular, this certificate, and he's saying that this was wrongly put, that GST number was wrongly put of that taxpayer. So that officer he has to intimate. Then the officer can check whether he has availed the input tax rate or not. If he has availed, then he can ask the person to reverse it. But the circular specifically says that the allowance of ITC of the actual recipient shall not depend upon the aforesaid action by the proper officer, and such action shall be pursued independently. So once I give a certificate, then my ITC will be allowed. That is what the circular says. And the only just because the opposite officer has been that has been circulated to the officer of the person on whom the wrong GST is mentioned, if that is not taking any action, or is taking any action, that will be independent. So it will not matter for that, but it is just for information purpose. So that is given, and that officer can take an action that if he wants to check the input tax rate availment of that person whose GST was wrongly mentioned, he can do that. Now again, the circular specifically states that the instructions will apply only in case of ongoing proceedings, in case of scrutiny, audit, assessment, appeal cases for financial year 17, 18, 18 onwards, and not to completed proceedings. So whatever proceedings have been completed, therefore that it will not be applicable. That is what the circular says. Now there are certain issues which are coming out of this circular, which I would like to throw light, and posers which I would like to give to the members of the study circle, is that whether this is only for 17, 18 and 18, 19. Okay. Only for 2 financial years. Now, first thing we need to see is whether this circular was required. Whether without the circular also, my claim of ITC could be without the circular also, my claim of ITC is correct. If I am fulfilling all the conditions, and I can prove by way of document or ledger confirmation, whatever be the case, that tax has been actually paid to the government, it is for the revenue to prove the otherwise. Okay, so revenue has to prove that tax was not paid. And there have been ample of judgments in Madras High Court, Jharkhand High Court, and various other high courts, and even under the old regime, that the responsibility for collection of the recovery has to be done from the supplier who has defaulted, and then only the recipient should be made liable for payment. So without the circular also, whether that is the first question we need to see. Then secondly, whether the circular will apply to financial year 1920 onwards also. Because in 1920 also 6 months, there was no rule 36(4). Okay, that was for the 6 months. And even after that, whether that circular will apply. So this case had come up in the Karnataka High Court recently, and day before yesterday only that judgment has come in the case of Wipro Limited, when it is specifically stated that this circular should apply. The court has given directions to the CBIC that circular should be made applicable to 1920 onward also, because the circumstances were similar in 1920 also. So therefore, the court has directed that this circular should be made applicable to 1920 also. Then there is a difference. Just wanted to highlight in the Maharashtra internal circular, the limit for obtaining registration, the certificate was 2.5 lakhs. So up to 2.5 lakhs, it was self-certification and ledger confirmation, and beyond 2.5 lakh, it was CA certificate. In the CBIC circular, it is 5 lakhs. Now, whether Maharashtra circular only was about SGST, that is not the case. It has specifically mentioned that CGST plus SGST in that. So I think the Maharashtra government has to align with the CBIC circular, and as rightly pointed out by our president in his opening remarks, the department may consider this, because all over India, all the state governments will also normally issue a similar circular. They say that all the circulars of CBIC are applicable to state government. So such notifications are always issued after certain points of time. At regular intervals, such circulars are always issued. So therefore, this is the one point. But till that such a circular is issued, we'll have to face such difficulties, and officers may take their own view in this case. Then one of the cases, whether the circular will apply where the assessment order has been received. So order is received, so that assessment proceedings are completed, but appeal has not been filed. Okay. So here it says ongoing. I'll read that specifically in this thing also. If you look at the circular, these instructions will apply only to the ongoing proceedings in scrutiny, audit, investigation cases for this, and not to completed proceedings. this instruction will apply in those cases for financial wherein adjudication or appeal proceedings are still pending. Okay. So whether that means if appeal is not filed, means what do you mean? The first is what is completed proceedings? Completed proceedings till the appeal stage, or completed proceedings only at that assessment stage, and whether assessment order is appeal is pending. I have not filed the appeal yet. So whether in that appeal also this verification process will be undertaken by the appellate authority, that needs to be seen. According to me, this should apply in appeal also, because the intention is that it should be given to the all. So if in assessment it has been missed, in appeal also it should be seen. But again, we'll have to see how the appellate authorities view this. With regard to the appeal, suppose the assessment order has been passed and the appeal time limit for filing the appeal is gone, even the condonation time limit of 1 month has expired, then what to do in that cases? According to me, there have been judgments in the past which say that, especially in the central excise and the service tax, even in VAT also, that after the 1 month, the extended with condonation delay, even the high courts have disallowed that they will admit the appeal. However, there has been a recent case in case of the registration cancellation, wherein the court had given a relief to the taxpayers. So this will again be a case wherein you will have to see the cost benefit analysis. If the stake involved are very high and the appeal time limit has expired, then always you can try to file an appeal. If the appellate authority admits it, it is good. If not, then the high courts would have to be approached for that. As of now, the portal allows you to file an appeal after the time limit also. So portal is allowing that. Portal is allowing after condonation time limit also. So portal allows it, but the admission has to be done by the officer, so appellate authority. So that will have to be on a case-to-case basis seen. Now, this circular is silent in cases where the mismatch is between 3B and 2A on account of non-filing of 3B by the supplier. So if the supplier has not filed the 3B, but he has filed GST amendment, 3B is not filed, the circular is silent on that. So how do you deal with such cases? Again, in such cases, the same principle that the authority should collect tax, recover tax from the supplier, defaulting supplier, and then only should come to us. But ultimately, there would be chances that if the supplier is not paying the tax, he will be denied the credit, and therefore it will have to be contested in the appellate authorities, appellate forum. Sorry. I think this circular, the circumstances were similar. If you look at the circular, it says it is mentioned that GSTR 2A could not be made available to the taxpayer on the common portal during the initial stages of implementation of GST. Further restrictions regarding availment of ITC by the registered person up to certain specified limit beyond the ITC available in 2A were provided under Rule 36(2) only with effect from 1st of October 2019. Okay. So that is specifically given. So I think October tak to ye, this will till September, and certainly we can argue that this will apply because circumstances are same. I am saying irrespective of the circular, if I have taken reasonable care, there have been Supreme Court judgments in the central excise also, wherein it is said that the responsibility of the recipient is to take reasonable care. If I have taken reasonable care to ensure that I have communicated with the taxpayer, I have obtained some declaration from him, or any letter communication is there, and I have done all the thing that is required, I should not be denied the credit. I am not a defaulting person. Even the Bombay High Court case, in the case of that Mahalakshmi Cotton, in that also department has specifically said that they will recover tax from the supplier first and then go to the recipient. So therefore, irrespective of that, I feel there is a good chance to argue on that case. But everything it is on cost benefit analysis that we will have to see.
I didn't want to disturb you. With regards to the delay in appeal that you were talking about.
Yes.
Now that delay in appeal with regards to that cancellation form that was there was a sort of cancellation. But that judgment cannot be essentially perceived as saying that that appeal period, the court has given the power to the appellate authority to actually extend the appeal period.
Yes.
And even going to the High Court, in my opinion, at least that's what I think, that merely going to the High Court will not have, at best, what we can say that what was the service proper or not, because recently I don't think there was a Odisha High Court judgment which said that Because if the GST portal is not proper, we need to give at least some kind of physical order or something of that sort. But Bombay High Court has said we are uploading it. So cost effect analysis also, I don't know. Going to the High Court, I am very happy with the advice. If you are going to the High Court. But because
Yeah.
especially in our BST and VAT, we and our senior judge argue the exact opposite when it comes to departmental delay. And there are judgments like NS Polymer saying that even 1 day delay, there is no power which is not granted. Even 1 day delay is not possible. So,
Yeah. So we are correct. As I said, there have been judgments that even the High Court cannot extend the time limit beyond that 4 months or 3 months, whatever, including the condonation. But certainly, if the stakes are high, that is what I would want to say.
And the right is body enhance and because as and when it comes to the mind. So if it is utilized, then it is useful. But in such case, when the difference is there a requirement to do skills and just it is enough to show if this is the error occurred while filing the because in 70 so then by the primary stage so a lot of cases are happen like this.
Sir, this circular only covers cases where invoice was uploaded, I mean, tax was paid in 3B, but there was some issue in GSTR1, whether it was missed out, whether it was wrongly given, whatever be the reason, wrong GST. It doesn't talk about the wrong availment of ITC in 3B. There is only difference between the GSTR1 which was filed and the by the basically supplier and the 3B. So that is only on that. So if only in case of invoice mismatch cases is covered. Here you are saying due to clerical error excess ITC was claimed or short ITC was claimed. This is not covered here. That if you have reversed it in the subsequent period, that would with interest that will cover it. I don't think this certificate will be required for that cases. For those cases, certificate is not required. With regard to the next point on circular 184, I'll move to the next circular. Yes.
For because the requirement for matching was never there in 16-8. So then this circular becomes
That 16 to AA is again a good point that it came after that, but the rule was there. That is what the department will say. We can argue that rule was ultra vires section. There was no empowering section which gave the rule, but department even in the circular they have stated. I will read that point. The availability of credit was subject to restrictions and conditions specified in section 16 with effect from 1st July 2017 itself. So in the section 16 only they have said that these restrictions and this can be brought in. So even though that 43A was not implemented or whatever is not given effect to, section 16 only had that condition of specifying the restrictions and that is again a very what we say litigious view. But certainly that such a view can be taken. If I would say if everything is there, I have proper invoice, I have made the payment of tax, then I think certainly we can fight, irrespective of this procedural thing. But certainly this will be a point at a lower forum. I don't think you would be better to at the lower forum. It will be difficult, but at a higher forum, certainly will. If there are, if I am not done anything wrong, and I think in that case equity will stand.
the government will come where department says that this is only filtered.
Huh.
But everything shows in GST. You
Yes.
essentially compliant.
Yes.
Yes. 16 section 2 all.
Yes.
That is where the real problem is.
Yes. Coming to the next on the input tax rate again on the case of the transportation of goods for outside India. So there was this proviso inserted in section 12.8. What is this section 12.8 says? Where both supplier and receiver both are in India. So suppose there is a basically a transportation company and they are providing services to an Indian exporter for transportation of goods outside India. So transportation company is in India, the exporter is in India, but the transportation has to be done outside India. So in that case, the proviso to section 12.8 said that the place of supply in such cases will be destination of the goods, where the goods are actually going. So in that case, it was because of this proviso, the transaction was considered to be an IGST transaction, interstate supply. up to 30th of September 2022, there was an exemption under the exemption notification serial number 11, wherein there was an exemption for transportation of goods from India to outside India by way of air or sea. There was an exemption given. But from 1st of October 2022, this exemption has been done away with. Now, what has happened because of that any transaction which is such covered in by proviso to section 12(8) of the IGST Act, it was considered to be an IGST interstate supply. And the place of supply had to be mentioned. There was no other option to mention it other territory, because I had to pay tax, and it is not an export of service because I will receive the consideration in Indian currency only. I will not receive in foreign currency. So the industry had taken a practice, or the practitioners that this will be for the sake of filing GSTR1, the place of supply was mentioned as other territory. Now, because of that, what was happening in the 2B of the recipient, he was not getting the credit because the place of supply is different from the state in which he is registered. So therefore, the input tax rate was denied, and therefore the need of this circular was there, whereby the circular stated specifically that such a transaction, that this will be considered as IGST, the place of supply will be 96. For the foreign territory should be mentioned, which is basically portal will enable that facility in the drop down menu in the GSTR1. And also they stated that ITC will be available to the recipient irrespective of the state, means it will be available. And they specifically stated that the section 16 and 17 does not contain any provision which restrict the ITC available by the recipient located in India with respect to services, the place of supply which falls outside India. So therefore ITC will be available. So in such cases wherein the IGST has been charged with the place of supply of other territory, they say that ITC will be available. Now again, there are certain issues which come up with this. One is since this circular is prospective or retrospective, that is one thing. Always the circulars are clarificatory, but this circular, whether it is prospective or retrospective, is one case, because there are 2-3 issues connected to that. One is, suppose someone has charged, this Indian supplier has charged CGST, SGST in that case, because since the recipient was not getting the credit, they would have charged CGST, SGST so that the recipient gets the credit. Now, in that case, whether he has to pay IGST and claim refund of CGST, SGST, that is the first case. And secondly, whether he has mentioned other territories. So whether he has to mention whether he has to mention amend the earlier returns and say it is foreign territory. So these are the 2 issues which with regard to the circular. On the supplier side, as a supplier, what I have to do? On the recipient side, if you look at the recipient, suppose the supplier has charged him CGST, SGST. Now, and he has claimed the credit of that. So whether he can claim it, because it is an IGST. So that are 2-3 things from the supplier and receiver point of view. So you look at from the supplier point of view, the supplier will say that I have paid IGST, I have paid CGST, SGST, and actually IGST had to be paid. And I had paid CGST, SGST because the portal did not allow me. Because the portal did not give the credit to the recipient. Because of that compulsion, I had to, and there was no clarity on this. Therefore, I had to say it is CGST, SGST. So therefore, I should not be compelled to basically pay IGST and then CGST. And this is a circular. Department is well aware there's a problem, and therefore they have issued the circular. So for the interim period, that should be allowed. That ground can be taken. The circular, there was a similar circular in the case of the bonded warehouse sale, wherein people had charged the CGST, SGST instead of IGST. And in that case, the department had clarified there is a one-time exception given. So similarly, such a circular has not come for this kind of transaction, but that ground can be taken because the portal did not allow it. Secondly, with regard to the amendment in the previous period, I think it is not required. This only should be prospective, and we should not go back and make the amendment in all the GSTR1 that this is other territory and all that case. This is well aware. Only for their settlement purposes, they might ask you in subsequently that how much transactions are such which are related to foreign territory, not other territory. Actually, it is possible there might be certain transactions which are actually related to other territory. So in such cases, they might ask for such details subsequently. But I don't think any amendment is required as of now until any circular is there. But going ahead from after the date of issuance of the circular, it should be other territory only. Foreign territory only. Now, with regard to the claim of ITC by the supplier, I think once they have ITC, whatever tax has been charged, the recipient can claim the credit. It is not on the part of the recipient to say whether it is IGST or CGST. It is the prerogative of the supplier to charge that tax. And if it is in the as per the provisions, input tax rate provisions and this form 2A, 2B, if the credit is available, he can claim that. Now, whether this circular will apply in cases like a hotel service. I am going in another state and I'm taking hotel services, GST, SGST is being charged. I don't have a registration in that place. Now, whether this circular will apply, according to me, the circular is very specific to a particular case, a particular transaction. Though there are views that you can take the credit of CGST, SGST will be disallowed. So I'm not going into that, but this circular is specific to what we say, the transportation of goods for both Indian exporter outside India. So therefore, I think that argument cannot be stretched to this, but certainly those who want to stretch it will stretch it. So they will include this in that. But primarily that argument is independent. This circular cannot be basis for claiming the CGST. Yes. Yes, yes.
For a particular period, they had a problem. So can we take the help of this?
So you mean to say, I think for that there is a specific circular was given, sir.
But they had only mentioned how to transfer the credit from one and to the other. But many of the cases were while preparing e-way, they were showing other errors. You have to charge GST. E-way, they were charging 90. There was a good transition gap between many. Almost 2 months there was like from if I'm not wrong, 26th January to May.
So
there were an option.
Yes.
You were allowed to transfer if you want. They were able to transfer to Nagara and take a new registration. But from May, they are compulsory done for everybody to get this transfer. So that period was a
So, Sachin bhai, I would say this way that if there was a practical difficulty at that case, irrespective of the circular, I could always take a stand that since that portal was not allowing me to do, I had done that, and therefore the input tax related. And if such a demand is raised by the officer, I can certainly say that this is similar facts. The facts are similar, the circumstances are similar, and the law and the portal was not allowing. So always the circular can be relied according to me. If such a similar facts were there and similar cases there, as I said for that case, that high sea sale and custom bonded warehouse circular was there. Similar case is there in this case. But now circular is not clarifying, but I can take always a ratio of that circular, whatever the intention of the government was there to apply in that circumstances. I think that can be a ground.
Well, I think circular was of custom.
GST. Yes. Yeah, I'll give the circular. Sure. Moving to the next circular 185, it's on the redetermination of the amount. So normally what happens is that sometimes the officer issues a notice under 74 saying that there is a misstatement, willful misstatement, fraud, and they invoke an extended period of limitation. Subsequently, the appellate authority say this is the extended period of limitation cannot be applied. Section 74 is not applicable, and therefore there is a provision under the section 75 which says that the notice which was issued under 74 will be deemed to be issued under 73(1), and the tax authority has to recompute that amount. Okay, that is the provision which says. So 74 notice gets converted into 73(1) notice. Now there was a confusion as to what is the time limit for this passing the order in case of a recomputation of the demand. Okay, redetermination of the demand. So this circular has specified that the time limit for passing the revised order shall be 2 years from the date of communication of the order or direction in accordance with 75(3). Also, with regard to the show cause notice, if the show cause notice, original show cause notice was issued within a period of 2 years and 2 years and 9 months, then in that case the proceedings will be reinstated, because the original show cause notice was issued within the time limit of 73. If the show cause notice was not issued within the time limit of 73, then the proceedings will lapse. Okay, that is the case. I'll give you one example. So suppose the dispute period is 21-22. The due date of issuance of notice under 73 is basically 3 years from the end of the financial year, from the date of filing of the annual return, due date of filing of the annual return, or September, whatever. So the due date in this case is 30th of September 2025. Then in case of 74, it is basically 30th of September 27. Okay. So 74 and 73 different due dates are there. Now what has happened? The officer has wrongly passed the notice under 74 and the appellate authority said now it is 73 notice. Now it will get converted into 73. So now there is a redetermination of tax which has to be done. Now the notice for the redetermination of the tax or the order has to be passed when? What is the time limit for that? If original show cause notice, the time limit of 73 was 30th of September. If the notice under 74 was issued before the 73 timeline, the notice under 74, original notice was issued up to 30th September 25, then the proceedings will basically continue under 73(1). If it is issued after 30th September, the proceedings will be dropped, being hit by the limitation period. So the 74 notice, original notice, when it was issued, it has to be seen in the light of 73 time limit. And if it is within the 73 time limit, then the proceedings will stay, otherwise it will be dropped. Again, the circular says that if the show cause notice for multiple periods, then I have to see for each period. If for the particular period that notice was issued within time, then only for that particular period the proceedings will stay. For remaining period, the proceedings will be dropped because of the limitation. Coming to the next is regarding the no claim bonus for the insurance companies. Now, what has happened in this is that normally insurance companies, any insurance policy you take, they give a no claim bonus, basically deduction. So if you are not claiming any bonus, you get some discount in case as a no claim bonus discount in the premium amount. So now the question was whether this no claim bonus will be considered as a supply and GST has to be paid for it. The CBSE is clarified this is not a supply. It cannot be considered as a consideration for any service being provided or supply being made by the insurance company. Also, the CBSE is clarified that the discount, it is correctly a discount in terms of 15.3A. Under section 15.3A, and this discount is available on the face of the invoice, and I can claim a reduction in terms of section 15. So that was in regard to the no claim bonus. Now coming to the e-invoicing clarification. Now what was happening in banking business? What happens in normal banking business? There is a bullion business also, basically, which is a taxable activity. It is different from a banking business. So in that case, what was happening? Banking company was exempted from issuance of e-invoicing. Now there was a question that bank is doing some other business which is not related to banking activity, whether for that business also this exemption will be available. We take a case of different case like a GTA. A goods transport company also has a warehousing business. Okay, so for GTA there was an exemption, but for warehousing there was no exemption. So under the same company I am doing two businesses. So whether e-invoicing will be applicable only for the business which is not exempted. So for the warehousing business e-invoicing was required, and for bullion business invoicing was required. So single entity for a partly business they should do invoicing, and for part business they should not do invoicing. That was a confusion. Now what the CBSE has clarified that the e-invoicing applicability has to be seen at an entity level. So if the entity level there is an exemption from e-invoicing, then the entire business of that company will be not subject to invoicing. So for a bank, if the bank is exempted, exemption is at an entity level and not at a business level. So therefore, this circular is a very beneficial circular for especially the banking sector as well as the other sectors where are multiple business involved. Next, I'll move to 187. This is simple. Is basically how the treatment of the statutory dues in respect of the taxpayers for whom the proceedings have been finalized under the IBC. So under the IBC, what happens normally? There was a circular issued 134 of the CGST on 23rd March 2022, wherein it was clarified that no coercive action can be taken against the corporate debtor with respect to the dues of the period prior to the commencement of the insolvency process. Okay, such dues will be treated as operational debt, and the claims filed by the proper officer before the NCLT shall be dealt in accordance with the provisions of IBC. Now, suppose these dues were done, and then the proceedings are completed. Then how do you recover the amount from the taxpayer? So this circular has clarified that basically this will be other proceedings under section 84, and for recovery of the amount, if it is a reduced amount also, it will be through DRC 025. That will be the form for the recovery of this. This, yes, yes, yes.
Some proceedings,
Yes.
some proceedings were initiated against taxpayer, and he replied to the officer saying that they are under IBC and those proceedings are on, so please don't take any, please don't pass any order. Now two mistakes have happened. He has replied to the officer, but he has replied to the official Gmail first. Now the officer got transferred and there is a new officer. The new officer, without taking cognizance of all this, obviously has passed an order. So now question is whether you can file an appeal with this, and if, or can you just say that because the order is badly wrong and should be wrong, if the appeal period is wrong.
So there is a Rajasthan High Court judgment in the case of Ultratech Nadwara, wherein if the IBC proceedings are initiated, then all the proceedings by the tax authorities, they have to basically claim it first, and that will be stayed. So that judgment we will have to see. But I think in your case, there was a notice issued. You had replied to the notice on the Gmail ID, and the officer has transferred. So the new officer has said that there was no reply given to you. Okay. So that will be covered by that. Then you can say that this is basically I'm under IBC and I'm governed by the IBC regulations. So if the IBC, if I'm protected, then that order can be challenged. That is what my view is.
And even if appeal period is that, then also
appeal period.
Because probably see when IBC is initiated, there is no head person. So no one has received the order they will know after 4 months.
So if the order is not received, then to you can say na order.
Of course, that is always the argument. But I wanted to say whether you can argue that the order is itself bad is what, because you cannot pass it on.
Yeah, I think, but we have to study this, I think, in detail. Yeah. Okay, next 187 is done. 188. This is very interesting. Now, what is this? Normally, what happens is a lot of unregistered buyers, like you are in a real estate, you are purchasing a basically what do you say, house, and the builder says that I'll complete the project within 3 years or 2 years, whatever be the case, and subsequently that project was not completed, or there are certain issues with the plan or whatever how the building has been constructed, and you tend to cancel that project or terminate that project, basically the flat booking. Also, in case of long-term contracts like life insurance for 3 years, 4 years, and you want to cancel in between, but the tax has been already paid. Now, when you're canceling, there is a provision as per the circular which says that a supplier can issue a credit note for cancellation. Now, however, the time limit for issuance of the credit note is the November of the next financial year, and earlier it was September of the next financial year. Up to that only you can issue a credit note. Now, in case of a long-term contract, wherein the time limit of credit notes has already expired. Now, in that case, and still the contract is cancelled. Now, in that case, how the person will claim the refund? So, therefore, this circular has been brought in. Even the section rule has been amended, wherein they have specifically stated that any person can file the refund. Any person can be a supplier as well as a recipient. So, recipient can also file a refund. But there was no mechanism, there was no machinery provision for how the application can be filed. So this circular and the subsequent amendment in the 89, which we'll be discussing in the later part of the session, they have brought in a procedure how the unregistered person can file a refund. So any buyer basically who is basically not able to get a credit note from the supplier, he can go and file a refund in this case. He has to be unregistered. So now what is the functionality? You can go on the portal, you can create a temporary registration in your name, and that the registration has to be taken in the supplier state. So wherever the supplier is located, that state you have to take registration, and you can apply for the refund under refund for unregistered person. That category, under that you have to apply refund from unregistered person. Now, what are the cases covered here is basically the premature cancellation of long-term service contracts where the supplier is not in a position to issue a credit note. So that cases is covered in this. Then the unregistered person will be required to undergo Aadhaar authentication. So first he has to take a temporary registration, do Aadhaar authentication, furnish his bank details in which he wants the refund. Then he has to file a refund application in RFD 01A, and whatever the provisions of 89, Rule 89 will apply for him also. One of the important things he has to take note is that the refund amount, claim amount, should not exceed the tax charge on the tax invoice by the supplier. He has to upload the documentary evidence to state that he has borne the tax and he has not passed on the benefit to the other person. So the unjust enrichment condition should be fulfilled. Again, separate refund applications have to be filed in respect of invoices issued by different suppliers. So if there are 4 suppliers, then he has to take registration state-wise. Though in one state there are 4 suppliers, then only one registration, but the application has to be made supplier-wise. So supplier-wise application has to be made for the refund application. Then where the time limit for issuance of credit note is there, so that time limit has not expired. In that case, the supplier only should file the issue a credit note, and the recipient should not file a refund application. And now normally a refund application, in any refund application, there is a time limit for filing the refund application. Now, what is the time limit for filing such a refund application? So they have clarified that the date of cancellation of the agreement, date of cancellation of the agreement will be considered as the the relevant date. So any refund application has to be filed within 2 years from the relevant date. So in such cases, the relevant date will be the date of cancellation of that agreement or termination of that agreement. So whenever I receive that letter or agreement cancellation, that will be the time limit for the basically the refund. So within that time limit, I can file the refund application. Now here, one more important point we have to notice that there would be certain cases wherein this has already happened. Okay, the cancellation was already done, the credit note could not be issued, and the builder also said that I will not issue a credit note, or that GST amount cannot be refunded to you. Now in that cases, how to go about? Because the circular has specifically stated that the date of cancellation, say I will have to calculate that 2-year time limit. Date of issuance of letter of cancellation of the contract or agreement for supply, whether supply will be considered the date of receipt. Now here, if already the time limit has gone, that it was issued in 2019 and the time limit has already expired, then how to deal with such situation? According to me, the circular should have specified that the date of issuance of the circular or the notification, that will be considered, and from there the time limit for past cases. And where the time limit is already available, you can go as per the time limit. But where the time limit has expired, I will say that this is the date from where the 2 years time limit should be calculated. But such a thing is not being given in the circular. Yes. Yes. I knew someone will ask this. Okay. So what he's saying that he has his own practicing firm. He's an individual. He has taken GST registration with his own PAN. Now he has also, in his personal capacity, purchased a flat in, suppose, say, Mazgaon. Here he has flat nearby GST department, so that it is easy. So he has purchased a flat and he is going to say personal residence is there. Now in that case, and there is some problem with the builder, and that there was a booking cancellation being done. He has already paid GST, and now the builder is not in the position to issue credit note for that because of the time limit issue. Now in that case, whether he can apply for GST registration, whether temporary registration will be available or not, because he already has a registration, because he's already registered in a business capacity and not in a personal capacity. So according to me, this is a question to me also. Practically, we have not seen such cases. Whether portal will allow or not allow. But only answer which I feel is that portal allows 2 registrations. If on the same PAN I can take 2 registrations also. So that registration is for my business, and this registration can be considered for my personal thing, that is as an unregistered person. But now whether that is correct.
For the purposes of buying the flat,
Yes.
is technically you are
personal.
Yes.
Personal. So the letter and spirit of the
Yes.
amendment does say, circular does say that issue.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean it's
Portal. Portal will say. But yes, but in pith and substance you can take, because as per the circular, the intention is you should be allowed the credit, irrespective of whether you have taken registration as an individual you are, because that is a different altogether. You are maintaining separate books of accounts for your personal and for business also. So always you can distinguish that. And as a this thing, you are unregistered on. So whether that will, I think that should not be a problem, but the portal will have to look. And portal also, as I said, they allow multiple registration. So whether this will be allowed or not, we'll have to see.
But I have one question.
Yes.
That comes to my mind is now take a builder example. Okay, take a builder example before the 5% flat rate came. So he has charged me say 18%, 6% abatement, 12%. The DS charge me. I have paid the entire 12%. And then there's the cancellation. But the builder would not have paid the entire 12%. He would have claimed some ITC or. So what is the refund amount which I will get, and how will the officer actually get it? Fair enough. But nobody in the business is actually paying the entire tax which is collected. He is also taking availing ITC.
No. I think whatever is charged on the invoice that will be given to the recipient, and the payment by the supplier, that is the builder, can be through cash or credit. So that doesn't mean that only if it is through cash, I'll get that refund, because he would have paid that tax to the builder would have paid his tax to this vendor, no, that what is he's claiming through credit. So the tax is already with the government. It is just that I'm getting a credit. So I don't think only to the extent he has paid in cash, I'll get the refund. I will get the full refund, whatever I have, it has been charged in the invoice. That is what my. Okay. So we are done with the circulars. Now we have half an hour and we can take up the some of the important notifications also. There are a lot of notifications in the rules also, so many things. But I'll try to cover the important ones because we are running short of time. So I'm taking the important ones one by one now. Now, first is reversal of ITC in case of non-payment of GST by the supplier and reavailment thereof. So now what in the budget 2022, there was an amendment in section 41 wherein the entire section 41 itself was replaced. And what the section 41 says is that a registered person shall be entitled to take the credit of the eligible input tax in the return, and shared amount shall be credited in the electronic credit ledger. Now, if the credit which has been availed by the registered person has not been paid by the supplier, so whatever the credit of the tax which I have taken, he has not paid the tax to the government, then I shall be required to reverse it along with interest in such manner as may be prescribed. So now here it doesn't say about GSTR1 and 3B mismatch. It is not about that 2A, 3B mismatch. It says that he has not paid the tax to the government. Okay. In that case, how the reversal will do, and therefore they had said they will prescribe rules for that. And they had also said that if the subsequently the supplier makes the payment of the tax, then the registered person can reavail the credit. Okay. So that was a rule, section 41. Now they have specified a rule under that section 37A, which says that the how the entire mechanism will work. And I will just summarize in this slide. Is that if the tax is paid by the supplier on or before, so suppose there is a non-payment of tax, I would not be required to immediately reverse the credit, first thing, but up to September that supplier should have paid the tax to the government. That is through 3B. So through 3B, he has to pay the tax to the government. And if he has done it on or before 30th of September the next financial year, then no reversal is required to be made by the recipient. Then if the supplier has not paid the tax up to this 30th of September, then in that case, the recipient is required to reverse the ITC on or before 30th of November to avoid any interest. So up to 30th of November, if he does, there is no interest. But if he does after that, then it will be subject to interest. But subsequently, if the supplier pays the tax, then I can get the credit. So there is no time limit for reclaiming that. Okay. So this is a case of non-payment of tax by the supplier, not non-payment of consideration. It is a case of non-payment of tax. And this specifically under Rule 41, this Section 41, this sub-rule has been inserted. If you go through the sub-rule, it is very complicated, but I have tried to summarize in this way.
If they are not mentioned consideration, then doesn't it like go contrary to 16.4? That issue is also there. People say that you are getting notices that you have to actually reverse the ID. If the person is filed the ID, you are getting notices like that. Not just interest, they are talking about reversing the ID because it's not eligible at all. So here, one side they are saying that you need to take a consideration of the XYZ amount. This might not be telling you 16 same logic should apply.
Yeah, 16.4 is a case. 16.4 is time limit for as a recipient to claim the credit.
No, not 64. Sorry, the 180 days.
Acha, 180 days on the this is not for the non-payment of consideration. This says that I have paid the consideration, I have done all the things, I have claimed the credit, but the opposite party has filed GSTR 1, but he has not filed GSTR 3B, but he has not paid the tax to the government. So in that it says that GST in the 2B you get the information that the GSTR 1 is filed, but GSTR 3B is not filed. So basis now the rule says that it should be filed in the GSTR 1 has to be filed, that then only I'll get the credit, but 3B is not, that is the condition. 16(2)AA say that GSTR 1 has to be filed. So now that GSTR 1 is filed, but GSTR 3B is not filed by the recipient. In that case, this rule will be applicable. This is not a case where GSTR 1 itself is not filed. GSTR 1 itself is not filed, then I'll not get the credit only. But suppose GSTR 1 is filed, but 3B is not filed. Then in that case, the rule 37A will be applicable. Look at rule 37A also. I'll just read it. Where the input tax rate has been availed by the registered person in the return in 3B for the tax period in respect of such invoice or debit note, the details of which have been furnished by the supplier in the statement of outward supplies in GSTR 1, but the return in 3B for the said tax period corresponding to the statement of outward supply has not been furnished by the supplier. So GSTR 1 he has filed, but 3B he has not filed, the supplier. So in that case, this rule will apply. Yes. This is different, out of syllabus. We'll take it later. Yeah, I'll take it after this. Okay. I'll take it. Rule 88C. I'll take it. Dilip, I'll take it. You can always call me also, no problem. Rule 88C. This is basically the manner of dealing in difference in the liability reported in outward supply and that reported in GSTR 3B. So if there is a difference in whatever the liability reported in GSTR 1 and 3B, then this rule says that automatically that they will issue a notice. Okay, system generated email will come to you, notice will come to you, and you have within 7 days. If you don't make the payment within 7 days, I will recover the tax from you. Okay, so this is summarized this way. So if there is a difference in the liability as per GSTR 1 3B, so GSTR 1 is more than 3B, then in that case the DRC 01A will be sent to you through email, auto-generated email. You have to make the payment through DRC 03 with interest within 7 days. If you make the payment within 7 days, then the matter is closed. If you don't reply, you can either reply also to DRC 01A that tax is not payable because of so and so reason. I had already paid tax in the earlier period, or whatever be the case, or I will be paying the next period, whatever my submissions are there. If I reply, and if the reply is accepted by the officer, then the matter gets closed. If the reply is not accepted, then again you can initiate recovery proceedings under 79. If the amount is not paid or short paid, then and reply also is not filed, then in that case recovery proceedings can be initiated under 79. So both these things. So this is the rule 88C. Yes.
Did they do it tax period wise or as a whole? Because I tell you why this will happen. For example, there is no sales during the current period, but there is credit. So you cannot adjust that credit note in the 3B. So you have paid more tax. Now in the next month you have sales. So you have automatically now you will obviously adjust that tax. Question is this going to be tax period? Because tax period is still for per month.
You should be happy that you are getting work. It will. What he is saying is correct. इसमें क्या होगा कि क्रेडिट नोट के केसेस होंगे वहां पे suppose there is no outward tax liability in there is no tax payment in 3B. So whatever that I cannot issue a negative amount for a credit note. So I will have to basically take it in the next month. So next month में GSTR 1 में ज़्यादा होगा, GSTR 3B में कम होगा. So in that case, how will be? So in that case also that notice might come and I will have to give a reply that this is the case. This is related to the credit note and all those things. So I will have to give a reply. and this will increase work of both taxpayers and professionals and officers also. But as your question is whether it will be tax period wise or according to me it will be for every tax period. So once that GSTR 1 is filed and the 3B is filed, if there is a difference, automatically you get a notice. जैसे वो export के केस में आता है, export है SEZ में, that amount is not transferred. Once you file the return, हाँ, so वो system generated हो जाएगा and this will be a big thing and उसको reply करना ही पड़ेगा. अगर reply नहीं किया तो फिर problem हो जाएगा क्योंकि वो automatic recovery proceedings कर initiate है. यानी आपको अगर ऐसा कुछ प्रॉब्लम है तो एक 11 तारीख, एक 20 तारीख और एक 27 तारीख एक और ड्यू डेट ऐड हो जाएगा क्योंकि जितने भी नोटिस आएंगे 7 दिन में रिप्लाई करना है उसको. तो यानी कुछ छुट्टी वुट्टी बंद. जीएसटी प्रोफेशनल्स ऑफिस में भी बोल दो कि नहीं छुट्टी नहीं. Yeah. One more thing I wanted to discuss here is this rule 59, wherein they have made an amendment, which says that if the registered person to whom an intimation has been issued on the common portal and the provisions of 88C, he shall not be allowed to furnish the details of outward supplies in GSTR1 or IFF for a subsequent period unless he has either deposited the amount specified in the said intimation or he has furnished a reply explaining the reasons of that amount remaining unpaid as required under the provisions of the sub-rule 2 of 88C. So अगर आपको ऐसा कोई notice आया है, which we discussed, mismatch of liability in GSTR 1 and 3B, and you have not replied within the period or you have not paid the tax within that 7 days period, आपको next month का GSTR 1 फाइल करने को नहीं देंगे. ये पूरा दादागिरी. It is what we say. You have to reply mandatorily 7 दिन के अंदर. If you don't reply and that reply is not accepted, then the next month का GSTR 1 फाइल नहीं करने देंगे. वो नहीं दिया है सर. Now with regard to the appeal application process, there is certain things. So normally an appeal application is basically done through form APL1 if all of APL1 में करते हैं, and APL1 के साथ you will have to upload all the supporting annexures like statement of facts, rounds of appeal, letter of authority, supporting annexures, exhibits, etc. There was a provision in the this act. Normally what happens now, earlier if you look at the old service tax appeal provisions or VAT appeal provisions, in that when you are filing an appeal, you will have to take a certified copy of the assessment order from the officer who has issued the order. A certified copy was required. But under GST, all the orders, orders are passed and they are uploaded on the GST portal only. So what was the challenge is that even though they were uploaded on the portal, the appellate authority was saying you go to the assessment officer and take a certified copy of the order and then only will admit the appeal. So that also had to be done within a period of 7 days from the filing of the appeal. So now they have made an amendment in this rule 108, and it is stated that where the decision or the order appealed against is uploaded on the GST portal, a final acknowledgement indicating the appeal number shall be issued in APL 02 by the appellate authority or an officer authorized by him on his behalf, and the date of issuance of the provisional acknowledgement shall be considered as the date of filing of appeal. So whatever, in such case where the order is uploaded on the portal, then that will be the acknowledgement shall be issued in APL 02, provided that the decision or order appealed against is not uploaded on the portal. The appellant shall submit a self-certified copy of the said decision or order within a period of 7 days from the date of filing APL 01, and a final acknowledgement indicating the appeal number shall be issued in APL 02 by the appellate authority, and the date of issuance of provisional acknowledgement shall be considered as the date of filing appeal. So if the order is uploaded on the portal, then I need not go and make a submit the certified copy to the officer. In that case, whatever I say means if it is uploaded, then there is no need for any self-certification also. And if it is not uploaded, then self-certification is required. Not a certified copy of the officer order which the officer has given. Self-certified copy is required. Then if the self-certified copy of the decision is not submitted within a period of 7 days from the date of filing of APL1, the date of submission of such copy will be considered as the date of filing of appeal. So if the order is not uploaded on the portal and I'm filing an appeal against that order, then I have to mandatorily submit the self-certified copy of the order within 7 days of filing the appeal. If I don't file it, then the date on which I have filed the appeal, physically submitted that certified copy to the officer, that will be considered as a date of filing appeal. In other situation, the date on which I have filed the appeal on the portal, that will be considered when the provisional acknowledgement is generated. So it is very simple. I again reiterate what I said, is that if the appeal is filed against an order which is uploaded on the portal, then in that case, there is no need to submit the certified copy of the order to the officer. If it is filed, appeal is filed against an order which is not uploaded on the portal, then within 7 days, I have to go to the officer and submit the self-certified copy of the order against which I am filing an appeal. If I do that, then the date of filing the appeal will be the date on which I have filed the appeal, and that time limit accordingly will be calculated. If I don't do it, then the date on which I have basically submitted the self-certified copy will be the date of filing appeal physically. So that is for calculating the time limit for appeal that is there. Yeah, that is the same thing here. Now, the Finance Act, in the Finance Act, there was a provision for withdrawal of appeal also. They had introduced a provision whereby if before issuance of the show cause, at any time before issuance of the show cause notice under 11 of the 107 or issuance of order under subsection whichever is earlier, in respect of appeal filed in APL1 or APL3, file an application for withdrawal of said appeal by filing an application APL01 or APL03W. Provided where the final acknowledgement APL2 has been issued and the withdrawal of said appeals will be subject to the approval of the appellate authority, and such application for withdrawal of the appeal shall be directed by the appellate authority within 7 days of the filing of the appeal. So if you want to withdraw the appeal, the procedure is given now. And further, that any fresh appeal filed by the appellant pursuant to such withdrawal shall be filed within the time limit specified. So if you withdraw and subsequently want to file the appeal, then it will be time limit of the original appeal, means order. The time limit, suppose says 3 months, then in between you have withdrawn, but subsequently decide now again I want to go in appeal, and that appeal also will have to be filed within the time limit of 3 months. You cannot say that I have withdrawn, after that again 3 months is calculated. You have to calculate from that period only. This is a change in this invoicing provisions for e-commerce operators or suppliers of OIDR services. In this, normally in the invoice, before this amendment was brought, the name and address of the recipient were required to be mentioned in the tax invoice. In case the value of the supply is less than 50,000, only the recipient requests it. So if the recipient requests that you mention my name and invoice up to 50,000, then only I would be required, basically in case of unregistered. Now with effect from this, because of this amendment, especially for the OIDR services and supplies through e-commerce operator, the recipient and the supplies to an unregistered recipient, irrespective of the value. So छोटा 100 रुपए का है, 200 रुपए का है, 500 रुपए का है, irrespective of the value, I have to mention the name and address of the recipient along with the PIN code and the name of the state. So small taxpayers, unregistered taxpayers, I'm issuing invoice, especially in case of this electronic commerce operators and OIDR services, I have to mention that on the invoice, on the face of the invoice, and that shall be considered as a deemed to be a address on record. So address and name of the recipient as well as PIN code and state name has to be mandatorily mentioned. Earlier up to 50,000, only if the recipient requires I was required to, otherwise I was not required to mention this. Then coming to the next amendment with regard to 46A, Rule 46A. Rule 46A says that if you are making both supplies, taxable as well as exempt supply, you can basically issue an invoice come bill of supply in that giving separate line items. Rule 46A did not specify the particulars to be mentioned in that invoice come bill of supply. It was always implied that it will be as per Rule 46 only, but this amendment has been brought in wherein a proviso has been inserted which says that in case of Rule 46A invoice come debit note, the particulars which are mentioned specified in Rule 46 or 54 or as the or Rule 49 as the case may be will be mentioned. So whatever mentioned in the Rule 46 or 54 or 49 has to be mentioned. It is just a procedural thing, more clarificatory in nature. Yeah, please. Sure. Quickly, I'll this is very important. Application for registration. Normally, when you apply for a registration, you have to basically specify your email address and the mobile number. Okay, and the portal will then generate an OTP, and you have to view that. Now, this requirement has been done away with. Once you directly take a registration, you have to just mention your PAN. OTP will go to the mobile number and email ID which was given in the PAN in the income tax portal, and from the income tax portal it will be linked. So the OTP and the email ID which was given in the income tax while making the PAN application, the OTP will go to that and not to any other OTP. That is a new thing while taking registration. So for verification of PAN, this procedure has to be followed. Then again, Aadhaar authentication. This is again a big thing which they have brought in. So normally, if you are doing an Aadhaar authentication, then physical verification is not required. But now they have started that even if the Aadhaar authentication is done, and if there are certain parameters by which they, because of the risk parameters or data analytics, they feel that a verification of the place of business will be required, then they can do so. Okay. And that is the new thing. And because of which now the registration time limit, which was 7 + 7 days, that is 15 days, it can go up to 37 days. So 30 days for completion of the physical verification plus 7 days initially they get. So that extension gets for the registration, and all of us are facing difficulties in the registration. Lot of scrutiny is being done. So this amendment again will extend the time limit for obtaining registration. And we are going backwards, wherein earlier also we were facing all those issues of registration. All things had to be done for obtaining registration. We are going in that direction again. Wherein earlier within 3 days the logic was within 3 days I'll get a registration in GST. Now it is again 37 days it will go back. This is about that refund application for the cancelled flats. The documentary evidence which needs to be supplied is a statement containing the invoice details, whatever proof is there, certificate. So that is given in this slide. That's it from my side. There are certain other amendments also, small amendments. I think with the considering the time I had prepared, but there are a lot of other amendments also which have been brought in. When I circulate, I'll include one slide on that also. I have not included in this presentation. I'll circulate to the GSTPM along with that. So when it is circulated, you will get the entire amendments in one place. Thank you. Thank you.
Question before we conclude.
Yeah.
This is regarding the first 183 number circular.
Yes.
GSTR 1 of December 2018 was submitted and data was freezed, but filing by OTP or DSC was missed. Same was done after cutoff date in May 20 when annual return working was going on. However, GSTR 3 was also filed showing proper turnover. Whether this can be covered in circular. Basically, GSTR was not filed, but 3B is filed.
The same was done after the cutoff in May 20.
Basically, that was done during when annual return was generated on the will, but 3B was filed.
So in the circular, they have specifically stated that it may be noted that for the period 2017-18, as per the proviso to section 16(4), the aforesaid relaxation were not applicable to shall not be applicable to claim ITC made in 3B filed after the due date of furnishing the return of September 18 till the due date of furnishing of return of March 19. If the supplier has not furnished the details of said supply in GSTR 1 till the date of furnishing of GSTR 1 of March 19. So this is for 17-18 only, but 18-19 के लिए ऐसा कुछ दिया नहीं है. So 18-19 में अगर आपने GSTR 1 May 20 में फाइल किया है, so therefore the recipient would have the time limit for claiming the credit for the recipient was September 19. So you have filed GSTR 1 on May 20, which is beyond that time limit also. The recipient would not have got the credit in GSTR 1.
But
3B was filed. 3B was filed showing proper turnover. When the 3B was filed is not mentioned again here. So the 3B was filed. If it is filed, yeah, if it is filed in time, then in that case, I think the circular will apply.
And then next is from the recipient point of view, he has received a notice that one supplier for purchase of goods in December 18.
Any above queries? Acha, he has above queries for the recipient and received notice in respect of goods purchased in December 20 as above. Please suggest any circular will be helpful. Same covered this. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much for the patient listening, and I look forward. Yes, thank you so much.
Good evening, one and all. Coming to the vote of thanks, needless to say, Raj, as expected, has done a stellar job in explaining the whole load of amendments and notifications and circulars which have come. And it is credit to him that despite the huge number of data that was there, he has picked up what was important and he has done very good justice to it. So thank you, Raj. And most importantly, he also made the session very interactive, especially with regards to ITC, where people are actually getting affected and the consultants are really anxious to get more academic input. So thank you for that as well. I request everyone online and offline to please give a huge round of applause to Raj. Before I end the study circle, there are a couple of announcements. The first announcement is that for the RRC in Lucknow is now full and we have crossed almost 200 members. And this is one of the higher number of members we've had in several years. We have a very interesting joint workshop with 5 or 6 other associations, namely GSTPAM, CTC, BCS, WRC, MCTC, plus AFTP. So there is a series of lectures spoken by very good speakers. So please enroll for that. There is an online option and offline option. The details are being sent regularly on WhatsApp. If there is any details needed, you can approach the office or any one of us. The other most important thing is that the marquee program of GSTPM, that is the coaching class, the beginners coaching class that we conduct for all members, their staff and everyone, that will begin on the 16th February. And the circular will be out very soon and the enrollments will also begin. So I request everyone, members or their staff members or anyone who is new, please take full advantage of the same. With that, I thank you and I thank the President for chairing this session. We'll rise for the national anthem.
भारत माता की जय।